The music industry by stopping in its tracks, and many of those who relied on live gigs had to come up with new ways to create and share their music. And for internationally acclaimed DJ and producer Mark Stent, this was an opportunity for him to create more music. And to tell us more about his newly released album he entitled Sugar, Mark joins me now via Zoom. Mark, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great, man. Good to have you on the show this morning. Let's now start with how this pandemic, especially the second wave, has impacted you as a DJ, as a producer, and as an artist in general.
I think in general, it hasn't been very good for both of us. I mean, we haven't had, for most of us that are living off week-to-week gigs, mean, we haven't gigged for, close to 11 months now. So, yeah, I think from a live perspective and from a financial perspective, me, and along with most of the artists in this country are suffering. But there's always a good side to everything. I've got to spend more time in the studio, and I managed to finish my new album way ahead of schedule. And I think it's really good work. You know, it's very emotional. You know, it got me down to thinking a lot more about my music and spending a lot more time. You know, when you are stuck every week living day-to-day life, you don't have the time. So I think I had the time, which was definitely an upside for it, you know?
Yeah, sure. And this Sugar album, Mark, is described as a masterpiece born from lockdown reflection. Tell us more about that.
So it's my fourth solo album that I've finished. Last year, I was nominated for my third one for a SABC, the Best Pop Album. And for this one, I called it Sugar because I felt like it was the sugar of my career. You know, I feel like I'm at a stage where I'm making music that I want to make, a lot more melodic, making stuff that speaks more from my soul. And I think this lockdown pandemic, obviously, because it's been quite an emotional and tough time for everybody, I put it into my music, and I feel like it comes through in the album.
And talk to us about the people that you've worked with on this album. I believe you brought on board up-and-coming South African artists.
Yeah, so that's my favorite thing to work with. I love working with up-and-coming vocalists because, you know, they're hungry. You know, often you'll find that vocalists that have been around for a long time are not quite as hungry, a little bit more arrogant. So I worked with obviously some big names, Daniel Barron for one, Garth Taylor. I like to work with different people. There's some new up-and-coming names. Marco Basson, absolutely phenomenal. A girl named Victoria Rawlins, all up-and-coming. But I think I've got about 8 or 9 local artists that I worked with on this album.
What was it about these artists that you've selected that really fascinated you and, made you decide that you really want to work with them?
A couple of them are my favorites, like Justin Chalice and Scotty and Nathan Dixon. I've worked with them on multiple tracks before, so they were a first choice because we just work well together. And then I think I don't really have a process when it comes to choosing a vocalist. It's more like I'll make a song and then I'll hit up Facebook or friends and say, right, send me your voices, and then I'll take a listen. And I kind of just know, you know, when I hear the voice that I want, and then we start working. It's a simple process.
Okay. And when one listens to the music that you've produced on this offering, what are we going to hear?
So it's quite a mixed bag, but it's house. That's my love. And I think over lockdown, I'm a massive fan of piano music and organ house music. And this album showcases a lot more pianos, more melodicity. That's even a word, I'm not sure. But it's got a lot more pianos, a lot more uplifting, kind of back to my roots, but kind of hybriding it with the current sound of today.
Sure. And what are some of the important messages, I beg your pardon, that you've tapped into in Sugar?
Yeah, I think it's just a case of a lot of it was talking. I think you've got to live your life, you know, enjoy every moment as we have it right now, because we come and it can go. You know, today we spend so much of our time living in the future and about what we think may happen, but we forget to live in today and enjoy what we have right in front of us. That's the biggest thing, and I think COVID's taught us that you can have everything today and tomorrow you can have nothing. You can be alive today, you can be dead tomorrow, and all you have is right now.
Mark, you also started doing sets via live stream every Sunday, I believe. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so at the beginning of lockdown, I think most people were doing it, the DJs were doing it to keep themselves entertained and fun. And I found it was actually a new way for me to interact with my fans and the people that listen to my music. So I like to call mine listening sessions where, I put music on for the week, but I've been working on maybe some old tracks, some new tracks. And then I interact with the people that aren't with me. We chat. And they started off with just doing something for fun. And they've grown so nicely. I do them every Sunday night at 6 p.m. And people log in, we chat about the music, we talk about what's going on. And people tell me their favorite songs, the new stuff I'm working on, I get to play. I really, really enjoy it. It's giving me another angle to kind of interact with my fans.
What can we expect from you in the new year? What do you have up your sleeve?
Oh, so I'm already about halfway through my fifth album because I've got so much time. I've signed to a bunch of really big overseas labels. I've got some big releases from overseas, including a track with one of the David Guetta's producers that should be out in the next couple of months. And I've done a remake of an old classic called King of My Castle, which should be out in the next month or so. So that's where we are so far. I plan to finish my album. I'm looking very forward to it.
Okay, so how do we connect with you in terms of downloading your music?
I think the best way to find me is to head up to my website, markstent.com, and that's got the links to all my Instagram pages. It's got examples of my music. You can join up to my newsletter there, and I can tell you what's going on at the moment.
All right. Any social media pages that perhaps your fans could get in touch with you on?
Yeah, on Instagram it's Mark Stent, on Twitter it's Mark Stent DJ, on Facebook it's DJ Mark Stent.
All right, Mark, great chatting to you. Thank you so much, and keep releasing
Thank you so much for
those hits. Okay, good stuff. Do have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, that was music artist, DJ and producer Mark Stent, and we've been speaking to him about his newly released album he entitled Sugar.
Of a thunder strike, I'm alive and I'm walking on the power lines. They're telling me that the world is gonna end tonight.